He is undoubtedly one of the most violent, shocking, and most of all controversial wrestlers in the history of professional wrestling. I myself don't like to associate this man's name with the word professional, because a lot of the time, he's far from it. The man I'm speaking of is the one and only Abdullah the Butcher. Born January 11th, 1941, Lawrence Robert Shreve is a Canadian and now retired professional wrestler. He has a reputation for being involved in some of the most violent and bloody wrestling matches of all time. Abdullah had his in-ring debut in 1958 at the age of 17. He initially competed in independent territories in Canada. He ultimately created his most known gimmick after going by multiple names beforehand. The Abdullah the Butcher character first distinguished himself as one of the most feared rule breakers when he broke a chair over a wrestler named Gino Brito's head, and then continued to beat him senselessly with a leg of said chair. His gimmick didn't require him to speak, so throughout his career he had multiple managers to speak for him. In WCW, he was introduced in a giant gift wrap box, and he was supposed to be Sting's birthday present from Cactus Jack, and Sting unwrapped him and Abdullah attacked him, so that really wasn't too great of a gift, I'd say. Now, skipping many years ahead, and we will go back, on April 2nd, 2011, Abdullah the Butcher was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, even though he had never wrestled in the WWE. He wrestled in the WCW, but never WWE. Superstar Billy Graham had a big issue with that, and he said, and I quote, "It is a shameless organization to induct a bloodthirsty animal such as Abdullah the Butcher into their worthless and embarrassing Hall of Fame, and I want the name of Superstar Billy Graham to be no part of it." Very shortly after, Abdullah actually pawned off his WWE Hall of Fame ring, and he received a lot of backlash for that, rightfully so. But that is not the only reason why he is considered controversial. He's been accused of infecting other wrestlers with hepatitis C through sharing a blade and cutting wrestlers without their knowledge. For example, he did this to a wrestler named Hannibal, and Hannibal had gotten a WWE contract right before he contracted it, and once he found out he had hepatitis C, going to WWE was out of the picture, and he was so upset about that. And he had went online and trashed Abdullah, only for him to start eventually cutting people without their permission and without them knowing. Specifically, he did it to a referee at an indie show under a masked gimmick. And all because Abdullah never cleaned his blade. He used the same blade on many people over and over again, on himself and to someone else. That's exactly how it was contracted to Hannibal. And there's footage of Abdullah absolutely just shanking Hannibal in the head. I'll try and insert the footage, but Hannibal did not deserve that. In JCW Volume 1, you can see Abdullah stabbing a guy with his fork. He's not actually stabbing him, you can tell. There's a big difference between him actually stabbing somebody and him not stabbing them. Another thing that Abdullah is known for is the big gashes in his forehead from blading, and that was exactly how he gave somebody else hepatitis C. He bladed himself and he bladed someone else. It's a shame because Abdullah really does seem like a cool guy outside of the ring, but in his gimmick, he just takes things way too far and does not understand the line and where it's at. Another thing that Abdullah is known for is being an extremely large man, and I don't mean muscle-wise. He had said in a shoot interview that he had absolutely no training to go into wrestling, and it's kind of apparent. If you ever seen him, you'd be able to tell. And it makes sense of why his matches really nothing goes on. He's too big to be technical. And because of that, he had to rely more on the violence, and I totally get that. I personally like deathmatch wrestling, and I personally like hardcore wrestling. And I've enjoyed Abdullah's matches in the past. First time I saw him was on JCW Volume 1, 2, and 3, where every one of those volumes he had a match with Rude Boy, beat Rude Boy in Volumes 1 and 2, and then in 3... Rude Boy finally got the win over Abdullah. And those were some very brutal matches. You go and listen to shoot interviews of people talking about Abdullah, 9 times out of 10, they are some of the most negative shoot interviews I've ever heard.
So then Paulie told me to ask him to come work me in ECW. And when I told him, he was like, "I can't do it. It'll fuck up my bookings in Japan." I said, "ECW is in Philly." I said, "How is it gonna fuck up your bookings in Japan?" He was like, "It just will." Then he started trying to say, I tried to copy his gimmick. The fork? I guess. I mean, I used a fork one time A fan brought it and gave it to me. I wasn't thinking about Abdullah. But he said because of the book, I tried to copy his style. Because of my gig bars, I'm trying to look like him.
Now, how many people have those?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just like, he said something one time. When I had asked him about having hepatitis, he said, no, I don't have that. I said, but you're getting sued by a couple of people for testing positive with HC and then Hep C, and then you got them getting color and you using the same blade on them. I said, no, I will never work you.
It seems like he has gained a lot of enemies in his long wrestling career, and rightfully so for some of the things that he did. And previously, I really enjoyed watching Abdullah's matches just because of, like I said, the sheer amount of violence.
Check out the belly on the pastry chef. Holy shit.
Those two boys share a lot of fast food on the road.
They share many a buffet. They pay one ticket and they split the fucking buffet bill and they eat all they like.
They close the buffet down every night.
And it's truly astonishing, the sheer amount of violence in most of the matches that he participates in. But now when I see Abdullah, I just kind of get uncomfortable, and just knowing the way he affected people's lives was terrible. Early in his career, he had a huge impact on Japanese culture, which there is a video on that if you want to look that up. It goes into depth about the effect that Abdullah the Butcher had on Japanese culture. And I can't believe that he had such a positive effect on Japanese culture and turn around and have such a bad effect on America. And I don't think it's because he's Canadian, you know. That's not why. It's just because he really, in the ring, was not a good person. He didn't have respect for many people in the ring, I believe. Outside of the ring, he seems like a really cool and down-to-earth person, but he just took it too far in the ring, and that's why I truly think he's one of the most controversial wrestlers in wrestling history.
Steiner's in there, but it's Abdullah. Cactus Jack thought it was Rick Steiner, but Abdullah. My gosh. Think about what he's experiencing.
He's getting cooked. And I think he's well done, guys.